It is now 8 after 10 in Soufriere Solution. Yes, indeed, the Eastern Caribbean, as I promised you. This is the first part of our House Guest Edition for today, the 27th of August 2026. And it's no stranger to the panel, Mrs. Joan Hippolyte, our PMA Area Office Manager, and she has joined with an intern who is also here as well to just share a bit about himself with us and how it has been with his works at the PMA office. But just before we begin, politely, good morning, and it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us, as always, at the Pitons Management Area. This is one of the platforms where we are able to educate the public and raise awareness about what the Pitons Management Area is all about. So thank you very much, as always, President of the PMA Club.
And to you, good morning as well. How you feel this morning?
Good morning. I'm feeling fine.
Feeling fine?
A little nervous, but I'm fine.
Well, welcome to our platform, and I'm happy you're here. First of all, persons who are hearing you for the very first time, who are you?
My name is Charles Dodo. I'm from Forbigny.
Son of the soil.
Yeah.
Nice. How you feel being here today?
As I said, a little nervous.
But
we are.
Good.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Miss, I just want to say I would have loved to accompany the team on the trip to Dominica, but circumstances beyond my control. But from all understanding, it was a wonderful initiative, a lot over the 3-day period. A lot was actually discovered as well. And excitedly, you're here to present on that fold. And let me just say congratulations, of course, to you and the club for empowering young minds, young people. And we realize the club is more than just a group of young people actually coming together for fun-filled purposes, but then it is our mandate as well to educate and empower, and this is what we're actually doing. With that being said, again, good morning and thank you so much. First and foremost, let me hear from you as to the Dominica trip.
Okay, so last year, for our summer camp, the PMA Club went to Martinique to visit another World Heritage site. And this year, we agreed to travel to Dominica to visit another World Heritage site, which is kind of similar to ours. It was the Mont Trois Pitons Heritage Site. And it encompasses a lot of the same terrain in terms of the ridges, the mountains. There is a boiling lake like the Sulphur Springs, but it is not easily accessible. So we were not able to get to this point. It is a very difficult hike for persons. It takes 2 days to get there under normal circumstances. And so right now they're trying to do cable car access to that boiling lake, which is one of the key factors for the Mont Trois Pitons Heritage Site. We also visited a freshwater lake, which is just a large body of water, similar to what we had at Rabot, the Rabot Lake, but much, much larger. And recently I heard that there is something similar to that up north, where a lake suddenly appeared after some construction. But this was one of the places we were actually able to visit, the Clearwater Lake, freshwater lake. We also visited the Carib territory called the Kalinago territory, where the Caribs have everything as their place of residence, and they are separate from the other Dominicans. They have their own tribe leader, their chief, and they intermarry. Right now they intermarry with, some other persons, but mainly it was within their community that they were allowed to marry. And we also visited a bubble beach where the hot water from the spring, the boiling lake, it filters right down to that beach and comes up through the sand, on the beach as hot water. And so they have created a kind of a spa-like where the hot water mixes with the seawater. And so you get hot water right on the beach. In the middle, it's a little warm, and closer to the sea, it is colder. So we also visited the Trafalgar Falls, which is really two huge waterfalls, not like ours here in St. Lucia, which is mainly a little trickle in some places, but they're very huge. And the water from the Trafalgar Falls are used for hydroelectricity. So we were able to see how it is tunneled through a big turbine, but we did not visit the hydro plant, and we also saw the plant where they're trying to do geothermal energy for electricity, but they are much more advanced than we are in St. Lucia. So there are some things that are similar, and the terrain and everything for those persons who have visited Dominica, it is very much like St. Lucia, but a lot more mountainous. The rivers are very full and clean and vibrant, a lot of water. So that's an advantage for Dominica. They have a lot of water, but the water itself can also be very destructive. And so we spend time in Roseau, a place closer to Roseau, and then we traversed to go to the sites during the day for the 3 days that we were there.
Thank you so much for this insight. Just share with us a bit of the main objective behind visiting those UNESCO sites.
Well, it is specifically to educate the club members to know that there are other World Heritage sites within the Caribbean. Well, Dominica was a World Heritage site a long time before us in 1998. And the specific outstanding universal value features were the Boiling Lake, which is like ours, but ours is even more spectacular in the sense that you can drive in to the Sulphur Springs Park. You can actually see everything up close. And the mountains, the Mont Trois Pitons, and we ourselves, we have our two volcanic peaks, which are right there, right emerging from the sea, and the freshwater lake and the vegetation. So theirs is a little similar to ours, but I believe ours is more outstanding and we can easily access it.
Nice. As the PMA manager, what did you learn from that visit in terms of protecting our Creole heritage?
Well, with regards the Carib territory, I think it can become a cultural site for World Heritage. And so here in St. Lucia, we have some specific areas that we can try to emulate. So for example, Anslavedi, I believe that area has a history of Caribs because of their features, and they engage in cassava and the whole cassava industry. Similarly, the Carib territory, as a matter of fact, one of the things I learned is that Arawak is the language that was spoken. So when we learned about Caribs and Arawaks in our history books, we are being told by these persons that Arawak was actually a language. So for example, for us in St. Lucia, we speak Creole. So it's like, if we do not preserve and teach our children about it, maybe somewhere down the line, persons may think that there is a certain tribe called Creole. So that is what they were trying to explain to us. But for me, I have been to Dominica maybe 10 times in terms of World Creole Music Festivals, in terms of workshops, training workshops, and so on my own personal travels. But this time around, it was mainly to take the students, the PMA Club, to learn more about another World Heritage site.
Thank you. Stressing on the PMA Club, how do you think young people like themselves can become actively involved in protecting the heritage site? And again, it goes back to deep conversations we've had. When if you ask persons in Soufriere, do you know what the PMA? They would be like, oh, the PMA I've never heard of. What is that again? So educational purposes as well. How do you think, we can bring more awareness as well, not just by those trips, but maybe a few other incentives you may have in mind?
Okay, so persons are free to join the PMA Club. As a matter of fact, we are going to have a limit because many persons are attracted to the PMA Club because of these trips and some of the other fun things that we do. But one of the main objectives of the PMA Club is to encourage young persons and their friends and relatives, their family, their classmates, to preserve and conserve what we have in terms of the beauty of Soufriere, keeping Soufriere clean, maintaining those features so that future generations can enjoy the pitons, the sulfur springs, the petroglyphs that are in existence in places like Stonefield, and also there's another set of petroglyphs at Belfort. Yeah, that's another place. And so we need to encourage the young people to preserve these, even in terms of Fongenlib, the area where the slaves were said to have escaped, or they call them Negmaon. The Fongenlib area is another place with a lot of history. And because of that, it is part of the PMA. Also at Rabot itself, we had the Rabot Lake, which has some history associated with it. And we are learning that after the drilling was done, right in the Sulphur Springs area, that lake became dry. And so it tells that there was a source or a link between the Sulphur Springs and the lake at Rabot. Residents in that area also spoke about the crossing of that lake by some British soldiers, where the slaves forced them to cross, and then they sank because they didn't realize that that lake was like a quicksand area. And after the lake dried, I remember one of the residents talking about getting one of the swords of these soldiers, and it was handed over to the owners of Rabot Estate. So there's a lot of history in that area, and we want the students to learn about it, to preserve it, and maybe not think of cutting off the top of the piton like some persons have thought they should do, and maybe create a hotel up there or something to desecrate the beauty of that area.
Thank you so much for that. And here I am seated then learning for the very first time that there's a Rabot Lake. You're never too old,
Yes.
to learn. Much debate, and I'm happy you're here as the PMA manager. Persons is asking me nonetheless, what are you all doing, or what is the PMA doing in terms of persons actually using the inscription site, maybe for music videos and whatever other purposes they may have, what concerns have been raised as to steps that can be taken, or what will be done to safeguard.
Okay, so we now trying to undertake a multi-pronged proposal to enhance the Pitons Management Area in terms of the inscription site, in terms of branding and marketing, in terms of creating copyright for the pitons, because a lot of persons, businesses, enterprises, movies are using the pitons, and nobody is paying royalties either to the government of St. Lucia or to the Pitons Management Area Office. So these are some of the things that we have coming up in a GEF proposal that we are actually preparing. We are thankful to the persons who have begun to assist us. It will come at a cost, but we have SAT, Soufriere Action Theatre Group, putting together a compendium of facts about the PMA and Soufriere and the history of Soufriere. We have Mr. Christopher Hunt assisting us with the branding and the copyright aspect of it. We had Cherise Taylor assisting us with marketing and communications. We have also the staff at the office, along with Ministry of Forestry, doing a project to try to eliminate, if not curb down, the invasive alien species on the pitons, which was actually planted there by the tour guides, thinking they were trying to beautify the piton, but it is an alien species that we will have to try to eradicate. And we also have an aspect of fashion and designing that's going to utilize materials that can be recycled. So, for example, to recycle jeans, pants, and create evening wear, or other things that can be done, so we can have a fashion show, and also to create some memorabilia with the pitons, the sulfur springs, the petroglyphs, maybe in terms of printing it with on the fabric of a bag or hat, a T-shirt or something. We have spoken to Ricky Dove from Barron's Drive to do this fabric art, and also Kathy Edmond in terms of printing, but we have not gotten to that level. But these are some of the things that we want to do, and we want to engage the young people in it in terms of learning a skill and creating something out of the PMA. We also have a young man, Tristan Fletcher, who has been creating some memorabilia in terms of keyrings, brooches, and magnets in the shape of the pitons out of bamboo, which is the national plant. So these are some of the things that we're engaging in and trying to get the young people to do as well.
Definitely. If I were to extract from the entire conversation here and what you just shared with us, tell us a little about the GEF project and what it seeks to achieve.
The GEF project will be basically enlightening the public, creating awareness, a greater awareness of the PMA Club and what we do at the PMA office. We have also a national quiz, which we hope to take place around Independence. So right now we have already put in an order for our desktop calendars for 2027. And on each page, you have information about the PMA. And we will circulate and distribute to the secondary schools in St. Lucia who are willing to participate in that independence quiz. So this is something we are hoping to undertake, a kind of Anansi's challenge style. So the schools that agree to participate, we will allow them to have the information so they can extract basic information from it, learn from it, and then the best students will be selected to participate in that quiz. We also had a curriculum created, or, well, not really created altogether, but we used some of the information from the PMA to integrate into the grade 4's curriculum, and it was used at some of the schools in Soufriere. However, right now we're hearing that there is a change in the social studies curriculum, so it would not only be for grade 4s, the information would have to spread through from grade 2 to grade 6. But this was something that was successful, and we actually had a quiz last year for grade 4s on that information about the PMA. So everything that we're doing is to enlighten the public, enlighten younger persons, and help persons to get to know more about the Pitons Management Area.
Thank you so much. And again, we continue to place heavy emphasis on GEF. And how does that project in itself connect with the environmental protection, sustainability, and even community development, where we look at Soufriere as a touristic town and, of course, one with a lot of history?
Yes, there's so much history with the town of Soufriere, and even I fall short in some areas, so I rely on what other persons say. We're trying to do some documentary as well. We will be doing that through the compendium of facts that SAT will be doing. They will be doing it through theater, through I've not gone through the entire document, but we have these documents from SAT and one from Mr. Christopher Hunt, and I know that SAT will be able to provide us that kind of information for persons to be interested in not just reading a document or reading from paper, but through song, through dance, through theater, they will learn about the history of Soufriere. When you think of older persons, we wanted to start a challenge with you, Cabrina, as the interviewer, going to visit centurions in Soufriere to capture a lot of what we may miss, maybe when they pass on. Some of the information we may not know, because as you rightly said, even with the whole idea of the lake at Rabot, there were actually two lakes at Rabot. One of them was a moving lake, which moved based on the wind, or I think the moon. And there was another one above it that was backfilled when the Lagan company did the Vieux Fort Soufriere highway. And these two water bodies were connected. And especially with the Rabot Lake itself, there used to be birds that migrated to it at certain times of the year from North America. And there were also waterfowls. And there was also a place in that lake that used to be bubbling, bubbling, bubbling. It's like the sulfur springs was breathing through it, because you would take the smell of the sulfur and you would literally see the water bubbling, and you could hear a gurgling sound like when you have a funnel and water is coming down through it. It is said, I have no proof, but it is said that somebody had gone down there through that lake, and his body was later found in the sea. I don't know much about it. Maybe the centurions may be able to tell us. So we're also thinking of doing some documentary like this. And we have even spoken to Gasper, who is Mr. Jean-Pierre, who has agreed to do a documentary on the ringing of the church bells. We have written to the Archbishop, we have written to the parish priest, and they have given us permission, but we have not gotten the funds through this very same, proposal where we're trying to do some documentary on the history of Soufriere. And I have seen on Facebook some persons have been, recording the tolling of the bells, and each of these bells have a meaning. So we will learn a lot more about it, even to the extent where I'm thinking of helping Gasper to write a song about ringing the bells rather than having two left foot.
Thank you so much for that. And of course, you have already jumped the gun with me asking in terms of the documentation that you spoke of, and having again Gasper and the different bell and the interpretation for sure. But thank you again for that expansion. Curiosity, as of course we man the PMA Club, and it can be really challenging when you have different personalities and young minds, but we will continue to stay the course. And it is very important as well to expose young people to environmental and heritage experiences beyond their own communities. And of course, you can definitely agree to that. And we've seen the various trips that have already taken place in Martinique, and of course, recently Dominica as well. Here I am asking you, what is beyond, what is next for the club?
Okay, so we want to cut down on all the fun activities, because we don't want to give the impression that it's all about fun, because we had Carnival 3 years ago, we had Carnival last year, we had Carnival this year. We have been having the summer camps, but after traveling as a manager of the PMA, I felt it was necessary to expose the children to other World Heritage sites, and that's the reason why we traveled. I just recently came from South Korea, spent 2 weeks there with over 74 other World Heritage Site managers, where we had a managers forum, and we discussed a lot of issues that affect us as small island developing states or SEEDs, whereby we need to develop our communities to provide jobs for the people. For example, right here in Soufriere, our PMA is within a living community. We have hotels, we have private owners. As a matter of fact, 80% of the Pitons Management Area is privately owned. And so we are kind of unique and different from other World Heritage sites where some of the places are totally owned by UNESCO or the World Heritage Site. So for example, something like Pigeon Island can be a World Heritage Site. But with us within the Pitons Management Area, we have so many other businesses, and it is a livelihood or living area, living community, that we are restricted in terms of what we can do or what the people would agree to do. So for example, you have your own land and we're trying to tell you, do not build a building that is so high that it can be seen from the sea with red roof or orange roof or reflective glass and things like that. There are certain building codes that you have to follow. We suggest colors. Some people follow the code, some don't. But right now we have a law enacted, which is statutory instrument number 107 of 2024, which gives the guidelines as to what you can and cannot do. Now, again, we don't want it to look like we're trying to force people to do what they want or not want to do on their property, but we're just asking for that kind of agreement whereby we will continue to maintain a World Heritage Site. Because, say, for example, within Sugar Beach, they're doing some renovations and constructions, then they will liaise with us to seek guidelines. They are within a building zone so that they can build, but we don't want them putting up orange buildings and, red buildings and things that are contrary to what we expect. We would prefer that they would use grays, browns, greens, dark greens, and grow vegetation to obscure all of these developments that are happening right there between the pitons.
Thank you so much, Miss. At this moment, I just want to say good morning to you as well, Mr. Solage. Thank you so much. A burning concern, and I've had to actually be making a pitch on your behalf as well when it comes to the whole demarcation exercise and the markers that were placed within the PMA boundaries. And sometimes, some persons can be a bit hesitant or if not difficult as to why are you actually setting a block or putting parcel within my area or my land? This is my land. I purchased, so what right do you have?
Okay. So this was some of the requirements of UNESCO that were had been coming up every time a SOC report, a state of conservation report was submitted. UNESCO would ask the Pitons Management Area Office to provide demarcations for the boundaries of the Pitons Management Area. Within the boundaries of the Pitons Management Area, there are policy areas or zones where building is or new buildings are exempt, like it's a no build area. So nobody should think that they can go on Petit Piton or Gros Piton and build a building. Now we have an issue with the base of Gros Piton where Mondesi Estate already had a residential area by the Mondesis, like the estate house. Unfortunately, that was sold to a billionaire from Canada. And so this gentleman tried to go through the policy it was at the time to say he's building a building on what originally existed. And we all know that a building of the past in the days of Mondesi Estate would be a smaller building. And if a billionaire is coming to build on that, it would obviously be a much larger and, more developed property. And so this gentleman, he acquired or purchased the property and is developing it. But I am leaving the issue to Development Control Authority, Physical Planning, and Crown Lands, and all of these government agencies that would have to deal with him. What I am concerned about is when I go to do the viewpoint monitoring photo to compare it to the baseline, it is that I cannot see the man's development behind the vegetation. Some persons may not want to hear me saying that, but this is my business. Taking a photo and ensuring that his development is not visible from the viewpoint monitoring, which is viewpoint monitoring number 15 on our, baseline. And so this is an area which is no build, which is the Ridge, Petit Piton, and Gros Piton. In the case of Sugar Beach, they were already an established place before we acquired the title of a World Heritage Site. And so they have permission to build, but with certain limits. The same thing for the Sulphur Springs area. And then the rest of the area, like I said, 80% is privately owned. So we cannot go and say to maybe Fondue or Stoneville or Mont Coubaril or even myself, because we have property at Diamond, which is pretty close to and other persons who live in that area. And the boundary, as I must say, is from the road, the Diamond Road, from Cool Breeze, everything on the right of the Diamond Road, all the way up to Boaden, everything on the right of that road, cutting across to go through Etangs and down the Anse-Lavoie River. Everything on the right is within the Pitons Management Area, and 1,000 kilometers out into the sea, the marine aspect of the Pitons Management Area, which I must say, and I'm thankful to the SMMA for managing on our behalf, and SRDF, thankful that they are managing the Gros Piton Trail and the Sulphur Springs on our behalf.
Thank you so much for this enlightenment, of course, Mrs. Hippolyte. I just want to ask you your honest opinion on how schools, and even organizations can work together to strengthen the conservation. Yes, and this has been a pitch as well. And even tonight, we want to implore. We've had a few cleanup campaigns ourselves as well, and trying to actually eradicate, if that's of a better term, or keep communities clean through, our campaigns.
Okay, so this is an issue that I, wanted to address as the Pitons Management Area. I felt that when I went into office there, that the institutions were operating in silos, and I'm saying that SRDF is kind of managing these two sites on our behalf as a PMA. Now, SRDF, again, was an institution that was there before PMA, because when SRDF started the foundation, there was no World Heritage Site title. The World Heritage Site title caused a PMA office, Pitons Management Area Office, to carry on the mandate in terms of conserving and preservation of the sites which had outstanding universal value. So in essence, there needs to be more collaboration between the Soufriere Marine Management Association, which is SMMA, SRDF, PMA, and even the Soufriere Town Council. But I guess persons tend to see me as being whatever, maybe trying to get monies from the foundation, which is not my main focus. My main focus is just to ensure that we do what we have to do at the PMA. And if there is need for us to get financing to do what we have to do, then that's the time when I approach the SRDF. I must say that the corporate citizens within the PMA, and even Anne Chasney and Jade Mountain, which is not within the PMA, they assist us very well when we reach out to them for assistance. So, for example, we had a situation at the inscription site with regards to the railings which were falling apart. And without asking, Sugar Beach offered to finance the railings. We had an agreement with Heineken St. Lucia, and they were dragging their feet about it, and it was really looking deplorable. And I'm thankful to Sugar Beach for reaching out, and now we have new railings at the inscription site. Some persons have asked why did we choose white, because we're against white and stuff. But the company that agreed to do the railings, it was white that was available. And if we had to put it, we would have to paint it ourselves, paint it in green or brown or another color. But honestly speaking, I think the railings are good enough as is. Now we have a lot of work to do there, because you mentioned about persons having videos standing on the stone of the inscription site. We are now going to do signs and maybe try to enclose that area, because some time ago we had another complaint of a lady who slipped and fell and brought a report about injuring her wrist, having fallen back on some gravel that was there. Well, it's not a paid site, and so I had to refer her to the Honorable Hippolyte or the Ministry of Infrastructure, because we don't have any I don't know, liabilities. We're not liable to any injury in that area. So we will have to put up signs. And for the persons who stand on the stone, it is like an insult. It's as they would say, supposed to be kind of sacred, but persons lie on the stone with their bikini, they stand on it, they sit on it to take photos. So we will be putting up signage, and we will be kind of enclosing that area so that persons do not actually get onto the monument.
Nice. And as we continue to target schools as well, so how do you think the schools and the communities can really encourage, responsible tourism, and even our young people to go out there as environmental stewards? And it brings us back to the sense of volunteering as well. And we've lost that culture where
Yes.
everything now people believe
They must get paid. Yes.
there needs to be a financial, reward or attachment to that.
Well, we have been reaching out to the schools, and like I said, the curriculum was part of it. We have been reaching out to the schools. So we have club members from Soufriere Primary School, Fort Jacques Primary School, and Soufriere Comprehensive School as well. We're partnering with Flowing Clean for the students to voluntarily assist Ms. Casavon, and also to recognize the importance of having water. As we see nowadays, there is this water crisis in Soufriere, and because our rivers and some of our waterways are not up to standard, then we're going through that crisis. So for the waters within the rivers, if the students and their parents and their peers and neighbors and communities realize that the water from the river could be used if it was cleaner, maybe that will help them to preserve it and not dump garbage, animal waste, or install their pig pens close to the river for easy access to water to clean their pens. Because if the river water was clean as it is in Dominica, they would be able to bathe in the river, have fun in the river. And not only in Dominica, we have places like Canaries, we have places like River Dory, where the rivers are not contaminated. There aren't persons living above the rivers and throwing garbage and waste in the water. So people can bathe in the river, wash in the river, engage in, physical activity or pleasurable or entertaining activities in the water if it's clean. So I know Ms. Casavon has a task on her hand, and we're trying to assist in that regard, but it will take a long time for us to change our culture, change our habits, so that the river can become a place that is clean enough for us to engage in these activities.
Thank you. Here you have it from the PMA manager. Thank you for that. Very thought-provoking as well, I must say. And again, we have our intern here with us, who is fortunate enough to learn as much as he can during his time. And I want to ask you to join in the conversation as well. What have you learned so far being at the PMA, and what from that, what would you like to see? What change do you want to see in the community?
Well, from my experience at the PMA, I've learned a lot about our cultural heritage and different parts of it. As you was talking about Rivadore and all those different places. For me, what I would like to see most is to see some of those ideas that Miss Hippolyta brought up come to fruition, and yeah, to experience what all the older people say as like good parts of Saint Lucia and Soufriere.
Nice. Let's trace back. Describe just one typical day for me, your life at the PMA office. Just one typical day.
One typical day,
You have two.
well, most times at the office, I work on reports. We organize data to put together in reports. So yeah.
And you went out on the 2 field trips?
Well, in the beginning, we went on 2 field trips to do the monitoring for the terrestrial and marine view baseline,
Photos, yeah.
and went to take the photos of the marine and of the terrestrial viewpoints in Soufriere.
Oh, very exciting. Share with me a little about that, what you gained.
Actually, his very first day was the marine viewpoints.
Share with me curiosity.
Well, for the first day we went on the marine trip, I actually got to like see the whole scale of the mountains, the Pitons, Sugar Beach, and Savoy. And then the next day we went a little more hiking. We went to the different points in the terrestrial viewpoints to take photos and compare them.
Nice. And what is your overall sentiments?
I really enjoyed my time at the PMA. I do hope to return if I can. And
what would be your most memorable experience?
Probably going on the hikes with Mr. Shah.
Okay, thank you so much. It is now 10 minutes moving up to the hour of 11 a.m. In Soufriere St. Lucia, Eastern Caribbean. It is often said that time flies, but too quickly, especially when you're having such an enlightening conversation. Just to bring us to our conclusion of today's discussion, what is one major lesson you brought back from your whole Dominica experience as well, Mrs. Hippolyte, personally?
Well, I send you 2 clips. I'm hoping it is from my grandchildren, because some of the students were asked to, send in some reflections on the trip to Dominica, and Mr. Jean was supposed to have sent it to you, which I thought he had done, but I had this too. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that these were the edited ones that I sent to you. But the whole trip to Dominica, it was exciting for the students, and they will be disappointed that they're not being aired today. They enjoyed the whole trip from St. Lucia to Dominica on the ferry, although the very first part from St. Lucia to Martinique was a little rough, but generally they enjoyed the time together, the camaraderie, the trips, the travels. And I, again, must thank all the sponsors who made this trip to Dominica possible. SRDF, Honorable Emma Hippolyte, Stonefield, SMMA. I don't want to leave out anybody, but we got sponsorship from a few institutions, Forster Jacques Credit Cooperative, Choiseul Cooperative, So these institutions, I hope I didn't forget any. I should have taken a note, but we really, really thankful to them to help make this trip possible. We also got tax waivers for the PMA Club members from SLASPA, and we got a contribution from our Department of Sustainable Development. So the trip was enlightening, and the students themselves sent in clips to Mr. Ronald Jean, but he wasn't able to be here today because he has to attend to some travel documents. He's going for a training session in Barbados with the secretary, and so today he was given the time off to go and deal with these travel documents. I'm trying to get him to submit the audios that he got, but I have not gotten it. So I'm hoping that he does it before the show comes to an end.
Thank you so much for that. As of anything else, there are always challenges in our day-to-day, and you're an individual, no matter the cause, would rise above all challenges. What would be your greatest challenge being the manager at the PMA area office?
Okay, so for me, my greatest challenge is to ensure that the persons who live within the Pitons Management Area comply with comply with as many of the conditions as possible. And the challenge for me is development in terms of tourism, because we have the hotels who are trying to develop, and then they are indeed providing jobs for persons. So this is a balance between sustainable development and tourism. So we want persons to get jobs, yet we want also to maintain that pristine environment. So, for example, a place like Sugar Beach is employing over 600 persons. So if they want to create something like the desalination plant, which they're trying to do right now, it will help with the water situation, the water crisis in Soufriere. So we would encourage them to do it, even if it may appear to disfigure that viewpoint monitoring. There is a valid reason for it. So we would encourage them to do it, and maybe encourage them to plant vegetation to obscure that view. Another concern, like as I'm saying, is with regards this kind of development. So, for example, there may be a new hotel that wants to set up at Freedom Bay, and again, that is right within the PMA, right on the verge of one of the viewpoint monitoring photos for Margaret Hood, right next to Paradise Hotel. Yes, we want development. Yes, we want jobs for the people. It will help us, we know that, but at the same time, will it cause us to lose the status? And so we have to try to balance whether we want to remain as a World Heritage Site. Some people are saying, oh, what benefit is it to us? People still come to see the Sulphur Springs and the Pitons anyway. If we do not have the World Heritage Site status, will it really affect us? Well, it will affect the owners of the property, and so their properties will be devalued. So I'm hoping that it doesn't come at a cost to the government, because this is also written in the statutory orders or the agreements that went on in the initial stages. So these are some of the things that we have to, balance off. And then again, even in terms of developing a new hotel, we have to look at the water carrying capacity for Soufriere, because right now we are in a crisis, and we know we have over 300 Airbnbs. Many of them have pools. All of this takes up water. So are we ready to have another development, a large development in Soufriere, to take up more of the waters that are already rationing? And also, in the same vein, it will provide jobs for people of Soufriere and surrounding areas.
Thank you so much for that. And this is where we near the end of today's interesting conversation. And it's just the first in a series of many as we undertake those various incentives. But just a highlight from the Dominica's trip to the World Heritage Site and hear from the exciting young ones. So take a listen.
Thank you to the PMA Club and all our sponsors for making these trips possible with the cost.
My name is Zoe Henry, and I have been part of the PMA Club from July 2023. This year, as a member of the PMA Club, I went to Dominica to learn about the Thras Piton World Heritage Site. Dominica is very much like St. Lucia in terms of mountains and vegetation, but St. Lucia is much more developed. What I liked most about the trip to Dominica is all the sites that we visited and the new facts that we learned. I learned about the Caribs at the Kalanago territory, but didn't see them in their traditional wear or eat samples of cassava. The adults and some of us bought craft items from the Caribs vendors. I would like to thank the PMA for making this trip possible for us.
Thank you to the PMA Club and all our sponsors for making these trips possible with the cost.
Soufriere FM, you definitely heard it yourself. It was an amazing and very educational trip. But just to rub it in my face a little, unfortunately, I couldn't have made it. This is where we end. Looking ahead, what are the PMA Club's next steps following this experience? And it was a great one by all accounts. And that was just demonstrated via an audio you guys just listened to.
Thank you very much, Cabrina, as always, for the opportunity for the Pitons Management Area Office to share with the public what we have been doing at the PMA and some of our upcoming plans. So thank you once again.
88.5 Soufriere FM, 11 a.m. in Soufriere Solution, Eastern Caribbean. This has been our first part edition for House Guests for today, Thursday, the 27th of August, 2026. The manager of the Pitons Area Office, Mrs. Joan Hippolyte, and the intern, Mr.
Dolo.
Thank you as always to all those of you who send in your comments. Thank you again, Mr. Stackert Solange. I do appreciate, and to our audience as well via frequency. We know you listened attentively as well. Thank you so much for that. Until next time, this is always a goodbye, au revoir as well. And I'm not forgetting our second part, Mr. Johnson Simon, who will be sharing with us the sports summer program and, of course, much needed information on the Yatta Foundation. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.